Hello, welcome to the Craven Chronicles, your go-to podcast, discuss the highs, the lows, and everything in between, supporting Fulham FC. Fulham are one win away from a day out in Wembley, thanks to Sunday's penalty heroics at Old Trafford, as the Whites exercise their demons against the Red Devils. We'll be getting straight into that before discussing Saturday's trip to the Annex. I'm John Harland. I am joined by Oscar O'Kane. Oscar, how are you? What a day, what a win.
Yeah, I'm feeling I've got a spring in my step, John. This Tuesday, obviously a Tuesday. It's not a very exciting day, a Tuesday, but
great day out. Great weather outside. It's so good to be a Fulham fan right now.
Honestly, Sunday. I'm still in awe that we actually managed to. I mean, I know this is a poor Manchester United side, but just the fact that we've got our revenge. 2 years ago, I got so much banter from my Man United mates, like, "Oh, unlucky mate, there's always going to be next year." And the fact that we've come back, the boys have overcome it. Marco, what a guy, what a man, what a day on Sunday. And now we roll on to the quarterfinals.
Unbelievable. I mean, let's just go straight to the full-time whistle. We can talk about the game in more detail later. But when it went to pens, I was so nervous. I was so nervous. And I saw the penalty takers thinking, okay, I know Raul, I back Willian. Apart from that, I'm not too sure who's going to take them. Oh my God, what a set of penalties. And Bernd Leno to the rescue.
Yeah, I remember when I saw the coin toss, it was like they're firing at the Stretford end.
Yeah.
And they're taking it first. So we've got the double disadvantage of...
We had everything going against us.
So I was just thinking, oh God. And then Fernandes steps up, he's going to convert it. But I completely get your point. Raul, confident. Willian, seen him do it before. Do you know, I'm quite glad that unlike 2 years ago, we didn't have Mitrovic taking one, because he probably would have missed it, if I'm being honest. But God, Sander Berg's penalty. Can we just talk about it? Because I saw him step up, and I thought, I mean, I love Sander, and we're going to get on to him later about his performance against Manchester United. But the way he dispatched it, roof of the net, no goalie in the world was saving that.
I've watched that back so many times. It was like the perfect penalty, just from every angle. It's brilliant. I'll tell you, the penalty I was most impressed with was Robinson's. It was almost the opposite of Sander's. It equally as good, but Sander just netted it top corner. Robinson I didn't see that from him. He's one of the worst shooters in open play I've ever seen.
Oh my God.
But the composure, unbelievable.
Yeah, and I thought, he sort of rolled out. He just nonchalantly put it the other side. I will say, the first couple of penalties United took, Leno, I mean, we're going to get onto him later, but the first three, he just kept diving the opposite way, and I'm thinking, oh God. And I think Leno doesn't have a brilliant track record saving penalties in his career, so I thought it's going to be a tricky one. Obviously, I guess we're lucky in the respect that Manchester United, they already played the penalties. They beat Arsenal to get to this level, but they had Bayindir in goal. And I think if they'd had Bayindir in goal for the penalty shootout, it could have been like a little Netherlands 2014 tactical Tim Krul substitution. But Bayindir's injured. And Onana, obviously I don't think he's very good he's not good at shot stopping anyway, but let alone penalty shot stopping. But God, when Leno saved it, the ecstasy of the players. And actually, I think the thing that really pleased, the camera angle that pleased me the most when I watched on the BBC was just Marco's reaction. You could just tell how gassed he was, how excited he was, that we overcame our demons, as you rightly said in the intro.
I love that full-time whistle, the whistle when the Leno saved that last penalty from Josh Zirkzee. I just love the reaction from the team. It sums up the togetherness they have, the massive bundle, everyone getting involved. I love Willian showing his age by not jumping in. Absolutely brilliant. But everyone is fighting for each other out there. Just absolutely brilliant. Leno, oh God, what a bargain he's been. I think he said it in his interview. He said that obviously they prepare which way they're going to go. So he went with his preparations for the three he didn't save, and the two he did save, he just went on vibes. I love that.
I saw him. I think I saw his post-match interview with Sander Berg on FFC TV. He was just so wholesome and just saying they did it for the fans. Also, I want to say just a quick one on the away fans. Thought the away fans were brilliant. Fulham fans, really, really loud, really cheered on the team. I thought the atmosphere was strangely quite quiet at Old Trafford. I know, obviously, there's not a lot to be excited about that football club, Gary Neville, at this moment in time. But they didn't really gear up the players. I mean, I know it's difficult to watch, but I thought they were really quite quiet until Fernandes scored. Only then did they really sort of pipe up in any way. But the Fulham fans, credit to them for making the trip up. Credit to them for, penalties is always served nerve-wracking to watch anyway, but to watch it live as well when for a club of our size, you know, to reach the quarterfinals is huge. Whereas in Man United, they can do it borderline every other season. So credit to the away fans. I thought they were brilliant.
The away support's been fantastic all season. There's been talks of the home support for various reasons, which I'm get into today, but the away support has always been solid. And before we move on, I just want to talk about Fulham penalties. Shootout has been unbelievable. So we've got the Spurs, Everton, even the Preston one. Yeah, we lost, but we still managed to score like 16 in a row or whatever it was.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, it's a good weapon we have up our sleeve if it does go to penalties against Crystal Palace, which is who we drew our ball first out the hat, which is nice to see. What was your immediate reaction when you saw Crystal Palace at home drawn out?
Well, when I saw our name drawn out first, I thought, great, we're at a home tie. I think it's really important that we had the home tie, because obviously when we got knocked out to United, well, it was the quarterfinal stage. We were away. I always think that makes it harder. I have a bit of a 50-50 about it. Obviously, we lost to Palace 2-0, totally outplayed. They totally deserved 3 points. We said it on the podcast. And our home form has been a little bit iffy. Like, yes, we beat Newcastle and Forest, but we failed to beat Ipswich. We failed to beat Southampton. We've lost to Palace. We've lost to Wolves. So our home form actually hasn't been vastly impressive. But I think in a one-off cup game against Palace at home, the fans, I mean, if there's any other game that the fans are going to be up for it's got to be this one. Has to be this one out of all of them. And I think that we've also avoided a couple of banana skins. If I'm being honest with you, I wouldn't have wanted to draw Man City. I wouldn't have wanted to draw Bournemouth. And I don't think I would have wanted to draw Villa. So if I look at it, of course, Preston would have been the most ideal tie at home. But I think Palace, probably would have been the team that I would have had next, or Brighton. So I look at it and I think, bring it on, really. Let's see what Palace are made of.
Exactly. I mean, Preston at home was obviously the one everyone wanted, but I think, as you say, Palace is probably the next best one at home, especially. On our side of the draw is, of course, Villa Preston playing each other. Probably. Well, I know you've got a hot take. I want to hear it again. Camera.
You've heard it here first. Preston are going to beat Villa at the Deepdale.
I don't know about that.
No,
Chief.
Honestly, I'm the truth, and I'm joking. I'm not.
Buddy.
No. I think Look, the only reason I say, look, obviously on paper, Villa are comfortably miles better, but you look at Preston. They've got nothing to play for. They just dismantled Burnley, the so-called best defence in the Championship, under Scott Parker. It's got to be done. 3-0, absolutely. I think if the tie was at Villa Park, I'd be saying Villa 100% are winning that. But I would not rule out. I wouldn't just say, Preston are out. The fact that it's at Deepdale, their fans are going to be the atmosphere at Lancashire. The Preston fans are brilliant. They're going to be so up for it. Look, Villa could do it, but I think that Preston might upset the odds.
I think Villa will just dispatch them, but I hope I'm wrong, because that'd be brilliant.
Jamie on our course will. He'll be livid when he hears what I say about that.
But if I'm going to be completely honest, I think Villa are the firm favourites. Like, if you look at their signings like Marlon, Asensio, Rashford, Emery in cup competitions, but they're competing on 3 fronts, right? They're competing Premier League, Champions League, which they'll probably put more eggs in, the basket, and the FA Cup. So it'd be really interesting. And just briefly on the other side of the draw, I think this is a fascinating FA Cup quarterfinal. You got the City, which is right. Okay, they're the only Big Six team left, and they're depleted Man City team. You got Bournemouth,
Brighton, Forest.
It's class. I love it.
I think as well. Another thing, I agree with you. I think this is the best FA Cup quarterfinal, like ties I've seen in my generation. Okay, we're biased because like Fulham are into the next round, but when you look at the teams that are in that, and you made a really good point earlier saying that 4 of the 8 never even won a trophy.
Never won a major trophy. Yeah, Palace, Brighton, us, and Bournemouth. Right?
Exactly. But the thing I think is, which I think is slightly maybe not talked about as much as, if you look at those teams individually, you look at Bournemouth, you just identify them: Brighton, Bournemouth, Fulham, Forest, and Palace. They've all had really, and obviously Nottingham Forest. I would say that those teams, and you look at them in their league position, have had incredibly underrated seasons. Obviously, we can always talk about Forest, and Forest have been incredible, but it's of no surprise to me that we're seeing the Fulham, the Bournemouth, and the Brighton in that table, because they've all had fantastic seasons, and that's now been reflected in how far they've gone in the FA Cup competition. So I think it's a credit to how well all of those clubs are doing. And also as well, just another thought as well, just incredible to me that Fulham, Forest, and Bournemouth all went up not even that long ago. Now all 3 of them are making up the final 8 of the FA Cup this year. I just think it's brilliant to see.
Yeah, it's great. Of course, we'll be playing Palace 29th of March. TBC on the dates and times and stuff. I'll firmly be there? Oscar, you can't make it.
Yes, I'm away in France. I'm actually completely gutted. I was thinking, wait, when is it? And then they said it's the 28th to the 31st. I thought, oh, I'm missing that.
If you're away for the final, when we get there, I'll be fuming.
No. There's no. The flights will be cancelled. I'll be asking for a refund. No chance. But no, I am actually really, really gutted because Palace, and as well, they are going to bring an amazing away support as well. They're going to be so up for it. But look, I think, should we dive into the game as well, just first and foremost? So, firstly, on the podcast we spoke about last week, you and I were a little bit, we sort of said, we're going to play really, really well, then they're going to get a Jamie Maguire last-minute goal. And there was a period in the game, even when it was 1-1, I thought, God, like they had a corner in the 91st minute. I thought, oh my God, Maguire's going to score here.
See Maguire's head just orbiting in the box, and I thought, oh my God, it's going to happen. Laurie Whitwell, who I had on last week, shout out to you, Laurie. I asked him, how can Fulham beat United? And he said, scoring from corners and dominating the athleticism in midfield. And I'd say that's exactly what happened. We scored. I've got to say first, it was a terrible. We'll go through half by half. It was a terrible game, a terrible first half.
Shocking
from both sides, really.
I genuinely was. I was watching with my dad. My eyes was just sort of. It had been quite a long day anyway, and I was just sort of like. I was thinking, how am I zoning out of the most important game of our season? Anyway,
I think, I don't know if you can touch on this. There's like a Fulham at the moment maybe don't look great going forward. It looks a little bit. I know we scored a couple of nice goals against Wolves, but there's I don't know. It's something not quite clicking up front. I mean, I'm sure. I don't think it's anything major, but we did get the goal thanks to Seabass. Calvin Bass. He probably I think my favourite player on the team now. I just love him. If you follow him on Snapchat and Awobi on Snapchat, he's just such a cool. I want to be his friend.
Yeah,
Calvin, I want to be a mate.
Yeah, do you know what? I imagine a night out with Calvin and Awobi.
I just want to hang out with them.
Equality, yeah.
Hang out for the day.
Yeah, exactly. Just a day in the life.
Brilliant. But yeah, it was from a corner, as Laurie predicted, almost.
Just also, just two things to say about the goal as well. The first one, which I thought was quite funny, was what the Fulham fans were chatting about Fernandes just before Pereira whipped it in for the goal. It's done the rounds, yeah. It has done the rounds on social media. It is brilliant.
Yeah, it was.
The second thing I want to say about the goal, though, and I saw this online as well, it is the carbon copy of the goal that we scored 2 years ago. Literally. Corner from Pereira, then it was Diop that flicked it in 2023, and then Mitro heads it literally in the same corner. It was like, I was watching it, I'm thinking, we've just copied exactly the same goal that we did 2 years ago. So United haven't learned the lessons. And just on your point about their set pieces, they've conceded the most number of set piece goals in the Premier League this season. They've conceded 12 goals from set pieces.
It's like musical statues. It was terrible. I'd be so frustrated being a United fan. But you said we as a carbon copy of the goal from 2 years ago. Thankfully, we didn't see a carbon copy of the red cards. And,
Thank God.
And we moved on to the second half. And again, not a great game.
Exactly.
Not from both sides really. Not the best spectacle for a neutral. But Bruno Fernandes, when you have a player like Bruno Fernandes on your team, even though United are in the pits and they're really struggling, he's a world-class player. And he scored a world-class goal.
Absolutely.
Something you can do about that.
Yeah, no, do you know what? The second half as well, also Adama going off injured, I'm a little bit worried about that. But we'll touch on to Smith for his little cameo. I thought he was pretty impressive. But Fernandes, where would United be without him? I genuinely, thinking about this season, I saw a statistic that only Mohamed Salah has got more goals and assists since Bruno Fernandes' debut in the Premier League. Which just goes to show you, and Fernandes is playing in arguably the worst Manchester United side that we've seen this century, certainly in the last 50 years or so. And he is carrying that team. I sometimes wonder, where would United be without Fernandes this season? I'm not saying they get relegated, but they'd be pulled down into the Wolveses and the Ipswiches, I think, of the world. I genuinely think so, because without him, they just lack any attacking impetus. And in their midfield, they've got no one who can get the ball and actually make things happen. And from dead piece situations, he's deadly. But I have to say, what a finish. What a finish. Like, Leno had absolutely no chance.
Yeah, and on the flip side of what you're saying, imagine Fernandes in an actual good team. He'd just be even better. So yeah, it went to extra time, of course. Couple of talking points. Sessegnon coming on at right wing.
Nearly scored.
He really scored. I thought he was really impressive at
he
right
was
wing.
good.
I think that's potentially something we could see, especially if Adama. We don't know the extent of Adama's injury yet, but that'd be really interesting. To be honest with you, I was disappointed Cess didn't come on. Well, actually, Smith Rowe came on for Adama. And there's a bit of a weird system going on. I wanted Cess to come on, but Smith Rowe came on, and I was impressed with him.
He was good. I mean, yeah, I thought... Yeah, when Adama went down, I thought,
He wasn't really doing much in the game.
Wasn't doing much. The thing, again, that frustrated me, and I made this argument in the Palace game as well, he just wasn't taking players on. I don't understand why. He did this thing of like, I think, I love Adama, but it's like, in the Forest game, he did his little chop and his left foot in-swinger.
Yeah.
So he probably thinks, well, that works, so I should be doing that all the time. And then he kept trying to do it, and he just kept over-hitting crosses or not really working. I thought Smith Rowe was brilliant. He completely changed the dynamic of our attack. I thought he was getting the ball, driving with it, making things happen. Obviously,
couple of good shots as well.
Just before near the end, took a really nice shot. And Nana actually made a pretty good save, actually. I will give him his flowers.
Nana had his first good game this season.
Probably. No, well, he didn't have huge amounts to do, really.
Good reflex save.
And I felt a bit sorry for Muniz. I thought... There were moments I thought in his hold-up play he did really well, like bringing the ball down, trying to bring others into the game. There were a couple of nice little passes, especially for that move when Smith Rowe took that shot. But I thought Smith Rowe, he came on, he made a difference. We were really sort of, in an attacking sense, the passing was slow. It was taking sort of 4 years to try and get the ball to Muniz or to Adama or to Iwobi. Wasn't really working. Smith Rowe comes on, gets the ball, spins midfield, drives. As soon as we beat their sort of near side press with Ugarte and Fernandes, Smith Rowe was bringing the ball out, making things happen. So I was really impressed with it. We've got to touch on to our other midfielders.
Oh, yeah.
Our two little gems in front of the defence. I want to just mention, we're going to come on to... Actually, we'll do our little man of the match as well later. But Sasa Lukic, I'm going to mention him again. Again, amazing performance. Didn't stop running, kept winning the ball, kept pressing. Ugarte didn't have a particularly good game. And the reason why is because Lukic just pinned him down. And Ugarte was taken off. I know he was carrying a little bit of a knock, but even so, I felt that the midfield battle was going to be so key. And when we lost to Man United 1-0, I felt at times it was a bit too easy for United to get in between our lines. But when Lukic was pressing up the pitch, because I think the other thing as well, when you look at this United team, is they look nervous. When they try and pass that from the back, if you really press them right into the corner, it's sort of Euro and De Ligt, they have to clear it. And when the ball is cleared up to Xerxes or Højlund, Bassi and Anderson were just winning it every single time, recycling the ball time and time again. So, got to give credit to Lukic. But John, I want your thoughts on Sander Berg. I thought he was absolutely... I mean, he was the epitome of coolness in that match. I
watched a little 4 or 5 minute highlight compilation on Twitter, just of his individual moments. And honestly, I had to rub my eyes. I thought it was 2010 Sergio Busquets.
I know.
Genuinely. I know. Okay, this is going to sound ridiculous, me comparing Sander Berge to Sergio Busquets. But the way
because we never go overboard.
Yeah, exactly. the way he receives the ball with his back to goal, for example, he's going to press. Just a little. He doesn't do anything audacious. Doesn't do any flamboyant skills. It's just a little shift of the body to evade the presses. He always makes the right pass. So composed, can put in a tackle. Oh, yeah. And I think, we were talking about Lukic before, I think when you talk about one of them, you have to mention the other, because the partnership they've built in the centre of that pitch. And as Laurie Whitwell said, you overcome the midfield and you'll beat United. And that's exactly what happened. So I think Berger, man of the match contender. Leno, man of the match contender.
Yeah.
Or Calvin Bassey, man of the match contender.
Calvin Bassey, I mean, again...
Shout out to him.
He only had one moment, and that's when Chido Obi-Martin sort of... The ball was bouncing, he didn't quite control it, and he sort of got in behind it. But then Anderson made a nice recovery challenge. Yeah. Of course, Bassey scored, and again, he was solid. He wouldn't be my man of the match, if I'm being completely honest. And I wouldn't actually give it to Leno. I know it's crazy to say that after he made great saves and he is the hero. He is the reason that we're in the next round. I would give it to Sander Berg. As you mentioned, I thought exactly the point you said. The way, his ability to just sort of read the pitch, it's like he's 4 steps ahead of everyone. His awareness to know if someone's pressing him down, and he just takes a couple of delicate little touches, nice little threading passes, just to take players out of the game. I thought he's so cool, so calm, so composed. I thought he was absolutely, and I actually thought that was his best game in a Fulham search since he's arrived from Burnley.
Something on Sander Berge as well. We've seen him for Sheffield United and Burnley, and I think he looked good for both of those teams. But they're two teams that were in the struggling in the Premier League and relegation fodder. We're seeing him in a top half Premier League side now at this moment in time. And it's really interesting seeing him with more of the ball than he's perhaps used to. And yeah, he's been superb. I'll say it before I say it again. I prefer the Berger Lukic pivot to Palhinha and anyone else.
I think you've won me over. I think I agree. Yeah. Obviously, I'd still love Zhao. Obviously,
oh yeah, of course,
you're not going to turn Zhao down if he comes back to the club. Yeah. But yeah, I'm really, really enjoying Sanderberg. I think he's now one of the main cogs of that Fulham team. I mean, I think when he doesn't play, which is nowhere near as good. I think when it's like Lukic and someone else, we're just not really quite the same team. Obviously, I think it's quite nice to see Harrison Reed come off, have a little cameo. I mean, he did his thing. But yeah, and Sessegnon I thought was impressive as well when he came. And I thought it was really nice to see that when the substitutions were made, our team wasn't weakened. Willian came on, put in a good shift, a couple of nice tricky passes. But Manchester United, their season just goes from bad to worse. I mean, God, if I was a Manchester United fan, I just want to quickly touch on one player. I know I just want to get it off my chest. I had a bit of a rant this morning. Rasmus Højlund was absolutely dreadful. I mean, we can say, I know a lot of the arguments around him are, he doesn't have great service. The wingers around him, they're on either flank, he's getting let down. The final balls are not there. I get all of that. But as a striker, it should be your impetus and it should be your prerogative to take the game by the scruff of the neck. If it's not happening for them, you can't just rely on your wingers. You've got to try and make the game happen. You've got to dictate it. And Højlund, his general hold-up play, his link-up play is dreadful, just constantly giving the ball away, not really making any runs. I mean, Anderson and Bassey had an incredibly easy day at the office, and I think it says a lot when a 17-year-old kid signed from Arsenal, Cheeto comes on, shows more hunger, more grit, more fight than you do. You're a 64 million acquisition from Atalanta. I know he's 22 years old, but you're meant to be Denmark's new... Yusuf Poulsen's now getting on a bit. You're meant to be Denmark's leading attacking future, and you're not showing anything. 9 goals since they've arrived for Manchester United. It's just not... It's not really good enough for me. And I think if I was Ruben Amorim, honestly, I'd drop Højlund. I'd put Cheeto up front in the next game. I know that he's not eligible to be in the Europa League tie for Real Sociedad. The next Premier League game they've got, I'd put him in. I just think that Højlund, he's running out of excuses now for me. Running out of a lot of excuses.
I'll play a bit devil's advocate on Højlund. I would say, I agree with you fundamentally, but I would say I can't believe he was brought in as a starting striker. That's my problem.
So if you're watching on YouTube, you just saw me spill a bit of peppermint tea that I've been drinking. It's just the reason I actually spilled it, I just couldn't quite believe that John was playing devil's advocate for Højlund. I can't believe you're defending him. I literally had to spit out my tea in disgust.
We had to stop recording there because I was laughing. I just saw out the corner of my eye, just like a little tea dribble down.
Well, that's going to have to go back in the wash tomorrow. Christ.
Make sure you don't have any tea in your mouth when I say this.
Really. Yeah.
I'm going to back.
No, I finished my tea now. I finished my tea.
Well, because I was saying, I think he wasn't meant to be brought in as the starting striker, which he was. I think if he had an established number 9, which United desperately need, and he was like the kind of prodigy, sort of behind him, I think that's what he was thrust into early. He's not ready to be a starting striker yet. And then who they bring into as a sort of rotation, Xerxes, who I don't know what he is, 9.5. He's not a 9, not a 10.
I would slightly disagree in that respect. When they signed Højlund, firstly, when you sign a player for 64 million, I know he's young, and I know that when they signed him, he was about 21, but he was signed to be the leading man for United. They give him the number 9 shirt. He's meant to be the focal point of Man United's attack. Now, I do get that he's young, so we've got to give him a bit of slack. I do agree with that. But the thing that I never understood, and I never got it about the summer recruitment, is you sign Højlund, doesn't have a great impact. So you're thinking, okay, we now need another attacking player, another attacking striker. And you sign Xerxes.
It doesn't make sense.
You sign another young player. So surely, in terms of your point of, well, maybe he shouldn't, I don't think he was the focal attack because he's too young. Well, I get that if they had then gone and signed a more established striker. But the fact is, they didn't really have an old striker at the club. Obviously, I guess you look at Marcus Rashford, but Marcus Rashford's attitude at United, there's clearly some problems there. So he hasn't really been able to shed his tips and his tricks for Rasmus. But it's not good enough. I know he's being let down by a couple of poor players, but when you look at other players, you look at Mateta. I mean, okay, Eze is a brilliant player, but you look at some of the other attackers that he's dealing with. I mean, would you say that they're better than Manchester United's attackers? No, but Mateta just takes the game by the scruff of the neck. And then you look at other players. I mean, you look at Isak. Of course, he's got Anthony Gordon in there, but it's not exactly he's got Jacob Murphy on the right wing. Now, Jacob Murphy's had a great season, but is Jacob Murphy better than some of the options that Man United have? I don't think so. But Isak makes things happen on his own. He doesn't rely on other wingers. Whereas I think Højlund is just sort of waiting and expecting. And I would give him a bit of slack if he was like making runs and having half chances and doing good link-up play. But fundamentally, he does not do any of those things. And that's why I think that he's running out of a lot of excuses.
Right, take a deep breath.
Yeah,
you got it out.
I did.
Yeah, no. I think what it is it just sums up the problems at Man United. They're just everything. Their recruitment is abysmal. And yeah, they just don't seem to get it right. And it's really interesting as well if Højlund went out on loan next season, I bet he'd be much better. It's like you're looking at Anthony, looking at all these players that leave the club, who come into the club with pedigree, like Xerxes was good in Serie A, and then struggle at United, and then they'll go somewhere else and start doing well again. So, but yeah.
Yeah, I guess maybe, I think it's probably just the pressure of playing for United. Like Xerxes, incredible season at Bologna, just goals and assists. And you go to United, and I don't know what it is. I don't know what's happened, but not good enough. But I guess for United, Chido, so I think we've got to talk to him. I mean, he was a handful. He caused Anderson and Bassi a couple of problems. And obviously, we've got to touch on that save from Leno.
Should we talk about the extra time before we move on? I think I like the look of Obi. Very, very raw. Very raw.
Definitely.
The finishing isn't there yet, but in terms of his attitude, his movement, I agree. I'd start him. Just get him up there. Maybe it's... why not? I would. But
at this point, what have they got to play for, really?
But yeah, what a save, Bernd Leno. I think that's gone under the radar slightly in all the penalty hysteria. But I mean, they wouldn't be in a shootout if it wasn't for Bernd Leno.
100%, yeah. And I thought, in the way, I mean, it was quite good play from Obi. Yeah, I mean, when I watched it, I was like, I actually thought that he'd like skied it over the bar. And then I watched the replay, and Leno just sticks his left hand out. Brilliant point blank range save. And obviously, if that had gone in, probably the tie would have been killed, would have been over. But yeah, Manchester United, I mean, they've got the Europa League as their last chance of Europe. Are they going to win that, if we're being honest? Probably not. They've got Real Sociedad next. I can't see them beating Real Sociedad over two legs. I just can't see it. So yeah, poor United. But I guess for their fans, seeing a player like Obi, 17-year-old, coming on, making a bit of an impact, definitely think he's one for the future, but I agree with you. Needs a bit more time. But moving on away from
anything else you want to touch on?
I don't really think so. I mean, I'm just delighted. I just can't believe we're back in this position. 2 years ago, I thought, when we lost United, I thought, God, are we actually really going to be back in this level of position? But now, we're not only back in the quarterfinals, but now we're back, and there's really not many top six, well, there's not really any top six teams that I'm particularly worried about.
I actually want to say something. I did a bit of introspection. Then we did a bit meditating, you know. I was thinking about it. I was thinking, this season's actually so good. Yeah. I know we're frustrated with a lot of like drop points and stuff, but realistically, a club like Fulham is going to drop, like, we are going to drop points in silly moments. It's fine. And I think this season we've had that Brentford game, that Chelsea game, this cup run, just so like the away days as well. Like just so many little nuggets of brilliance that Marco's given us fans, and I think we just need to enjoy it. I know the players always say one game at a time. It's so boring, but it's kind of true. I think as fans we kind of need to maybe do that as well. Just this season's been absolutely class. We should sort of just. Yeah, not take it for granted because it's not going to be like this forever.
No, I agree. That's the thing. I know it can always get worse.
It can always get worse.
It can.
Yeah,
Mick McCarthy.
Mick McCarthy. Yeah.
It can. But I just think I agree with you. No, I mean, once we beat United, I mean, once I'd calmed down after I'd celebrated like a maniac, on reflection, it's just like, it has been a great season. We're still in contention for Europe. We're not even that. I'm not saying we're going to make Champions League football. I'm not going to get quoted on that.
The fact we're even fighting in a position to be disappointed about not getting European football.
Exactly, and the fact that and also I look at it, it's like we're in the European hunt. Now we've got another way potentially that we could, because we could win the FA Cup. I'm not saying we will, but we definitely could. I look at the team, look at the other teams we're up against. Yeah, it's going to be a tough one, especially if we play the likes of Bournemouth or City or whoever, or Villa.
That should be our number one priority now.
I do think that as well. And I think that's probably what Marcus said to the players after the United game. And I think it's also important as well. Of course, we've beaten United, but when we play Palace, again, and you mentioned this earlier, we cannot take it for granted. If the players have got to be fired up for any game, just think about it like this. If they beat Palace, it'll be the first time since the 02-03 season that we would have reached an FA Cup semi-final. I think that the players, as well, they can etch themselves into Fulham folklore, especially even if we even reach the FA Cup final. They will put themselves, if we don't win it, they'll still be in their conversation. It will still get talked about in 20, 30, 40 years.
Should we talk about Brighton?
Absolutely.
Yeah, so we are heading to the Amex on Saturday. And Brighton, it's a funny one, isn't it? So this, on paper, this is actually quite an interesting one because it's 8th v 9th. Brighton are 1 point ahead of us, 43 points and 42 points respectively. It's a big game for the aforementioned European push, but our record against Brighton is bizarrely good. Since 2018, unbeaten, 5 wins, 4 draws. It's like one of those things. We always seem to have their number, and it's a bit of a funny one, isn't it?
Yeah, I think we're a bit of a bogey team for Brighton.
Yeah.
We're like Graham Potter's worst nightmare. I don't know what it is when we play Brighton. Even when we have been promoted in the Premier League and have been dreadful, and they are riding a crescent of a wave, especially during that Potter era, we always just managed a way to beat them. Also, as well, I mean, I don't want to get ahead of myself. They could be potential future FA Cup opponents as well.
They could be, yeah.
So we don't know, but I think it's important to touch on Brighton. They're in great form at the moment. Fabian Hertz has done a fantastic job. Also, to go to St James's Park and beat Newcastle in the manner that they did. I know that Gordon got a red card, but Lamptey also got a red card, so it was 10v10. Danny Welbeck rolling back the years. I saw this brilliant stat about Welbeck scoring. That's his first FA Cup goal since his goal against Manchester United in 2013. So 12 years he hasn't scored in the FA Cup. That's just a wonder. And it was actually his winner, obviously, when he playing for Arsenal against his old club. So great for Welbeck, and probably huge disappointment for Newcastle as well. They probably would have looked at it and gone, well, all the other big teams are out, so we've got a really good chance here. But yeah, I mean, weirdly enough, at the Amex, we've got a fantastic record as well. I mean, the games that always stick out in my mind, that Manor Solomon winner.
I'd say that is maybe the best limbs I've ever seen from Fulham.
100%.
The Chelsea one this season might top that.
Could top it.
But those Brighton away limbs, which is like biblical. Unbelievable.
But again, I mean, it's a weird one. I'm like strangely confident that we're going to get a result. But obviously, look, you cannot overlook Brighton's quality. They've got quality in abundance all across the pitch, from back to front. João Pedro is a player that I'm particularly worried about. I just think he's so silky, so tricky. João Pedro, I think he's a future top 6 player. I think Brighton are going to find it really difficult to try and keep hold of him for next season. But you look at their team across the front line: Minte, Mitoma, Pedro, as I mentioned, even Welbeck coming off the bench. And, you know, just they've got so much. I mean, Belabra in midfield, defence, Verbruggen in goal, Van Heck, Dunk. They've got some brilliant, and even Kadioglu as well. They've got a really, really good team. So it's going to be a difficult game. But obviously, if we manage to get a positive result, then that will give us huge confidence for our continued European push.
Completely agree. If you're talking about United earlier and their sort of recruitment and stuff, Brighton's the complete opposite. They continually just pick out these gems, and even now they're dipping into their pockets a little bit more, which is interesting. Getting the likes of Ruta for big money, but in terms of their availability, I'm looking now on FPL, very reliable source.
Oh, absolutely.
Mitoma is a doubt,
Okay.
75% chance of playing, which is good for us because I think he is absolutely exceptional. Apart from that, their attackers and midfielders are all fully fit. Defence is a bit of an issue for them. They've got Igor, Kadioglu, who just mentioned, Dunk, all injured, Lamptey suspended, and Veltman's a doubt. So a little bit thin in defence. As for Fulham, Sasa Lukic did pick up 10 yellow cards, so he'll be absent. So it'd be quite interesting to see how we match up against Brighton. It's always two questions when talking about lineups.
Yeah.
What would you do, and what do you think Marco would do?
What I'd do, unchanged team from United,
But
bar
Lukic.
I'd swap out Lukic. I'd probably put Pereira a bit deeper. I think that's what I do, and I put Smith Rowe back in the lineup. I think that's what I might do. I know that might not be the most popular decision. I know that some people probably go for Harrison Reed in that role, kind of like in terms of Lukic, in terms of his energy. But I think I would put Andreas, maybe Andreas and Sanderberg sitting in front, just in terms of from a forward-thinking perspective, just to try and spread the ball out wide. And obviously now with Adama, we don't know if he's going to be ruled out for the Brighton game as well. So it'll be interesting to see what we do there. I think maybe we're going to see Willian make his first Premier League start since his arrival, which would be great. Yeah. But I think I'll go for Pereira, just a bit of an engine, a workhorse in there, doing his bit for the team. Obviously, we have criticised him earlier on in this podcast about set pieces, but you can't deny it. He was brilliant at set pieces on the weekend, and I think recently his deliveries have been important as well. So I think that's probably what I'd do, and I think I'd probably reinstate Raul back into the side over Muniz. I just think Raul, especially as you mentioned there, the injuries of Dunk and Igor and Veltman getting knocked out. I think Raul, just to hold up his weight, just to make himself a bit of a bully up there, I think that's probably the option that I go for. What would you say?
It's an interesting one. There's quite a few things Marco could do here. He could go back to that 5 at the back, 3/5 at the back. Without Lukic in there, you could just have midfield 2 of Pereira and Berger, maybe, with a front 3, or you could stick Reed in there and go back to a 4 at the back. You could even go Sessegnon as a right winger.
Yeah.
There's a lot of options, but what I think Marco will do is probably stick Pereira and Berger in the pivot with Smith Rowe ahead, and then I think he'll probably go Willian, Muniz, Iwobi on the right. That's probably what I think he'll do, and that's, to be honest with you, that's probably what I would do as well.
Well,
same back 5.
Well, actually, you make actually a really interesting point now. I've just actually got the lineup from when we beat them earlier in the season.
3-1, yeah.
And the lineup, this is going to surprise you.
Talk to me.
Leno in goal, Robinson, Bassi, yours true, your favourite, Issa Diop, Castagna.
Get him in.
Sander Berg in front. And then I'm going to just leave out the other player, just want you to guess. Right wing Wilson, Smith Rowe, Nelson, Muniz. What Marco did is he put Iwobi next to Sander Berg.
Yes.
And actually, when you look at that game, and Iwobi scored a brace in that game when we won 3-1. Yes. So he might. So your point is, he could do that. He could put Berg and Iwobi. Then he might put Smith Rowe, and obviously Wilson and Nelson are both injured. But he might do the suggestion. You see, maybe he might put Sessegnon in that wing and position and drop Iwobi into the midfield.
I'd forgotten. Do you know what? I'm glad you brought that up actually, because I'd completely forgotten. Iwobi as an 8, I actually love. I completely forgotten that experiment.
Yeah,
and I think I would say with Iwobi, I think he has looked a little bit off it in recent games. I think he's just burnt out, to be honest with you. So stick him in centre mid, that would be the best case for him, just to run around even more. But
because I do remember when we played Brighton, Iwobi scored a brace, and he played in that kind of deeper role. I think that we had a couple of injury problems, and he played, obviously scored a brace. So maybe Marco might do that, and I agree with you. I thought against United he wasn't incredible on the left wing. Obviously, I don't want to criticise him; he's had an incredible season. But maybe he might think Sessegnon came on, was impressive. I'll give him a go. I'll just put Iwobi a bit deeper. So we'll see. Josh King, or is it too soon for him?
I think for what it's worth, Sessegnon won't start on the right wing. Josh King won't start. But I think those are 2 really good options that I could definitely see him bringing on. Especially Sessegnon. I think Sessegnon deserves a start, potentially. You could even start him on the left with Iwobi on the right. Yeah, there's a lot of options, which is nice, isn't it, really?
Final thing to say, score predictions.
Oh,
now, last week.
Can I go first this time?
Of course you can. Of course you can. Of course you can. Yeah, no. We're going to even the playing field. We're going to every week. We're going to change it up because I do get an advantage by. I
always embarrass myself every week on the score prediction.
Well, last week we were a bit pessimistic, weren't we?
What did I say? I said we win 2-1 in normal time.
Did you?
Yeah.
Let's check the VAR
check the
on
record.
that one.
Run it back.
I'm going to check the VAR on that one.
I'm editing and I cannot be bothered to run it back. So.
What are you going to go for?
I think our peckers are up right now. Our record against Brighton, so good. I think I'm 2-1 win.
2-1.
Yeah.
I'm going to go. I think it's going to be a bit of an end-to-ender. I'm going to go 3-2 to Fulham.
I like
3-2 Fulham, and I'm going to go for a why not? Sessegnon scored against Wolves. He's going to back it up with another goal in the Premier League. Sessegnon for the winner. That would be brilliant. But yeah, it's whatever happens. It's 2 teams in great form who play attractive football, who've had brilliant seasons. So we're going to be in for an absolute cracker.
That wraps up today's episode of Craven Chronicles. Thank you so much for joining us this week, and thank you, Oscar, for joining me as always.
Thank you, John. Top man.
If you enjoyed this episode, please consider dropping us 5 stars on Spotify, subscribing on YouTube, and turning that notification bell on so you never miss an episode. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at CravenChronPod. Next week, we'll be reviewing our clash with Brighton and looking ahead to a pretty tricky run of fixtures. See you next week, and as always, up the Fulham.